Hello and welcome to Magic in Mind. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of an experiment. This is a new moon experiment with Runic Astrology. And some of you will have been joining me for a long time doing my new moon oracles, and for other people, this will be new. But the experiment is the drawing bit that I'm going to be doing with you today. And I'm doing this because I really like the practical aspect of Northern astrology, what we can do with the runes because of their symbols and having a little bit of a play. So this is our field of play, is this horizontal line that we've got here. And you can see that I'm using dotted paper for this one. And I'm actually using a drawing screen, which is not my forte. And I don't normally do it this way. I normally use my pencil and paper. So you get to laugh at my toddler-like drawings, but I hope it'll be worth it for the fun that we're going to have together. So if you want to join along with me, then you're going to want a piece of paper either with some dots on, or you can have some lines. You're going to be able to want to divide it up into 29 spaces, and I'm going to number them as we're going along. And I'm going to start with 28 because the new moon this month in February is on the 28th of February. So we're going to start on the 28th of February, and then we're going to start with the 1st of March. And I'm going to number each of my squares with my beautiful handwriting all the way up to the 28th of March, which is when the day before the next new moon. And I like to do, when I'm doing this, I like to think that this is like a meeting point between my sage self, the part that likes to know, the sort of little rational mind that does all of the calculations of these dates when the planets move through the runic wheel, is essentially what we're looking at. And my seer that does the readings of what those movements mean. And so my sage starts out, and I've done all of the calculations for you, and the calculations come from Nigel Pennick's work. I've adapted that. I've been working with it for 15 years now. And if you want to know how those are done, you can go to my website. You can join Cena Star Wheel, which is my membership, to do all of these things. But today we're just going to be looking at how this all plays out. And I drew my inspiration for the way that I lay these out from runic calendars. So runic calendars are perpetual calendars. And what people would do is they would mark out, they do more than this. So they would do a year in advance, but it would be very, very similar. They would mark out a set of spaces, and they would do it over the course of a year. And then they would put in they would calculate the dates, and they would do it based on the lunar months, and they would do it based on starting in 7-day units from the new moon. And they would use the runes, but they would use them in order. That's not what we're going to be doing. So I took up those runic calendars, which were being used about 400, 500, 600 years ago. So they're not really ancient, but they're old. And I use them as inspiration because we're working with a lunar cycle. So in our lunar cycle, we're working from the 28th of February through to the 28th of March. So we've got our new moon, which I will put in for us now. The new moon, just move something that's out of the way for you. And I put our new moon here on the 28th. So that's our new moon. And we've got a new moon in Teiwaz this month. Now, this is really interesting. So I'm putting my Teiwaz rune here. So Teiwaz is the rune of victory. Look at that. You can already see my little toddler drawings there. There's my Teiwaz rune. It looks like an arrow. It's the rune of victory. It's often seen as a very masculine rune. It's an arrow in flight, or it's a sword. There's a lot of action. It can be really nice for us here in the northern hemisphere that we're starting to think about moving more into action, and our energy is building. Now, what's interesting is that this is always at this time of year a very strong and powerful Teiwaz period anyway. And that is because the sun, I'm going to draw the sun down here for you, is already in Teiwaz. So the moon is joining the sun in Teiwaz. So this is like a starting position, let's say. This is where the sun starts. Soon as Chariot starts off in Teiwaz, and we have a new moon that starts in Teiwaz as well. So it's a really powerful time to work with the Teiwaz rune for healing. If you want to take action, it can be that quite a lot of events are happening at the same time as well, because events are happening quite speedily out there in the world. And generally speaking, that's a really positive thing. We don't have any planets in retrograde or on retreat, as I like to call them, this month. At the start of the month, Odin's chariot and Frigg's chariot, Mercury and Venus, are going to move into retreat this month. But at the beginning of the month, we've got a very, very fast moving energy, and it might feel a little bit overwhelming to you if you're not quite ready for this at the moment. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that and this theme of Teiwaz in a moment, but let's put in a few more of our key marker points first. So I've said that we've got a new moon in Teiwaz. Then on the 14th, we have our full moon. Here we go. There's our full moon. And our full moon is in Kenaz. So that's the rune of creativity. It's the rune of the torch. Really nice rune to work with. And that brings that real sort of creative spirit. It's a manifester rune. So Teiwaz can bring that action moving forwards, but Kenaz is great for actually manifesting projects, bringing things through. It's really good for physical healing as well. It's really powerful and potent full moon. If we've got the ideas coming and the action that we want to take, we're initiating through the new moon with our Teiwaz energy and as soon as chariot in Teiwaz. And then with Kenaz here, this full moon, we are more in the manifesting mode. It's a great time to be doing magics as well. So this is our, if we look at the weeks here, this is our, where the full moon comes in. And I'm just going to mark in where we have our, there we go, where we have our quarter moon and our half moon as well here on the 22nd. That's a half moon bar. There we go. Half moons, I should say. So this is the half moon waxing, moving to full, and then at the end we get to our new moon again. So we've got our 4 weeks essentially, what we're looking at through the course of this cycle. So then we can start to bring them down into blocks and say, okay, what's happening here? We're going to look a little bit more at the starting positions now. So I've mentioned that Teiwaz is really strong, but you're going to start to see a little bit more of that theme in a moment. So we've got Odin's chariot, and you'll notice that I'm using the sort of Greco-Roman symbols here. I don't know why I've given him a little eye there. He doesn't actually have a little eye. Maybe that's because it's Odin's chariot. Quite like it with a little eye there. This is Mercury, which we refer to as Odin's chariot. And he starts out in Berkano, which is the rune of the divine feminine. There we go. He's a little bit ahead of the sun at the moment, which is quite nice. Then we have Frigg's chariot, which is Venus. There we go. I always think of Frigg's chariot as being sacred to Frigg and to Freya as well. I'm not going to talk about that today, but it's always worth bearing that in mind if you're more of a Freya devotee. And Freya and Frigg at this moment are actually even further ahead. So in the rune row, Teiwaz, Berkano, and Ewaz are successors to each other. They're in the last 8 of the runes. They represent maturity and integration very much. They're quite complex energies in many ways. And the sun and Odin's chariot and Frigg's chariot are making their way into this third 8. So it's a time of requiring us to be in our most mature selves as well, and initiations into maturity, into eldership as well come through during this period of time. And as I said, with Teiwaz and then Berkano as well, the sun moves through Teiwaz, Berkano, Ewaz, and Manaz. So at this time of year, it's always a strong, powerful Teiwaz energy. But with our new moon in Teiwaz, there is one planet who we need to be a little bit aware of, and that is Tyr's chariot. He's just moved out of retrograde. We'll put him here. There we go. And this is the equivalent of Mars. And you can notice, if you look carefully, you'll notice that Teiwaz is Tyr's rune. And it's still got that arrow. So you see the arrow there, and then the arrows and the Teiwaz rune as well. So this is Tyr's chariot. Now, Tyr's chariot is in Fayou at the moment. And he's spent some time on retreat in Fayou, which has been quite difficult for relationships with money and things. But that's really starting to free up right now. And he's going to be staying there because he's been on retreat. He's just starting to speed up a little bit now at the moment to sort of gain his momentum now. So we've got through that quite icky Fayou energy. We're starting to come out of the other side. Then we've got Thor's chariot. There we go. It's obviously Jupiter. And Thor is in Athala at the moment. So he's in the rune of ancestry. And he's also not moving this month. So that's great if you want to do any work on estate, on inheritance. Home is very important at the moment as well. And that's not going to change all through the course of this month. Now, what is going to change is the position of Loki's chariot. So here we have Loki's chariot, which is Saturn. And at the moment, Loki's chariot is in Berkano. Is he in Berkano? No, he's in Teiwaz. Ignore me. He's in Teiwaz. There we go. So we've still got strong Teiwaz energy, but he's going to move into Berkano this month. So at the moment, he's holding that Teiwaz energy. So we've got Loki's chariot in Teiwaz, we've got the sun in Teiwaz, we've got the new moon in Teiwaz as well. So it's this really strong, cutting through, quite masculine energy, moving us through. But that is going to shift through the course of the month. So this month is a really great time for initiating new projects, for finding your brave, for trying new things, for saying yes to stuff. All of those things are really, really helpful and good before we move into quite a strong period with Berkano. Let's finish our planets. So then we've got, this pleases me greatly. This is the symbol for Uranus here, which is Ud's chariot in Northern astrology, which is the chariot of the Norns. So it's got the three Norns, the three fates. And they are hanging out in Ingus, and they are going to be there for quite a long time. And we've been waiting for this for quite some time. Ingus is the rune of the seed. It's the rune of the new world order being born at this present time. We had a period of time where we were in Ingus last year, and then they went on retreat back into Lagus, which is the rune of cleansing and of rebirth. And then they went back in. So the blueprint for our new reality, let's say our new world order, is already set. And the Norni are now holding that for us with the Ingus rune seed there. Then we have here Aegir's chariot. There's Aegir's chariot. And Aegir's chariot is in Berkano. So he's holding that energy of the divine feminine, of new birth, growth, new life coming through. And that's been there for a long time. This is almost where the sort of new world order has come from, is this sense of dreaming into what might be possible. And this is a collective dream. So it's almost been like still happening in many ways, sort of wrestling of the collective dream and something new birthing through that process. And then we have Hela's chariot. So Hela is the goddess of the underworld here, and she is in Perthro, and she's been in Perthro since January 2020. Many of you will have heard me talking about the Perthro paradigm, this, again, real period of rebirthing and of karmic, what might we want, karmic reaping, let's say, on a collective level that has had to take place. Now, you might be wondering why it is that I haven't put the moon in here, and that's because the moon moves through one rune almost every single day. It's not quite perfectly aligned. So if you counted there, if you did Teiwaz, Berkano, Ewaz, Manaz, Lagus, Ingus, Dargas, Athala, Feu, Urus, Thurisas, Ansus, you'd find that we Rado here, and then it should be Kenaz there, but because it's not quite 24 hours, Kenaz is in our full moon there. So I don't put it in down here at the bottom because it changes every single day. So that's why that is there. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is that the sun, as well as being in Teiwaz at the moment, she is in Njord's Hall. So that is she's going to be moving into Njord's Hall, I should say. I'm blethering. Ignore me. She's in Njord's Hall. Here we go. We'll go little fish for Njord there, so we know. And she's going to move at the end of the month. That's why I'm getting myself confused. She's going to move at the very end of the month. She's going to move into Thor's Hall. So I'm going to put that in on the 20th. I'm going to give her a little hammer. You see this little hammer here? There we go. That's Thor's hammer, to symbolize that the sun is moving through the signs of the zodiac as well. I'm just going to make her a little bit small there. There we go. So it's on the 20th. And the reason I've made her smaller is because there's going to be another planetary movement there as well. So these are our starting positions down here, which runes are dominant for us at the moment that we might work with. As I've said, Teiwaz is a really, really great rune to be working with this month. Let's look at what else is happening then through the course of this month. We can start to see how these energies change through the course of this month. It's actually quite a slow month. We get towards the end and there's a lot more happening at the end of the month. But it's almost like we've got this period of momentum coming. And the only thing that's going to change that ever so slightly is that Frigg's chariot is going to go into retrograde. Oh, that's not in the right color. Let's get it in the right color. Now, she didn't go into retrograde at all during 2024. So she is having a well-deserved rest. I like to think about it that way, that she is going on retreat. Frigg is a sky goddess, but her origins are as an earth goddess. And I always feel it's that she returns to earth. She returns to her roots to find new energy, new motivation for the for a new cycle. She needs to go and to heal and to find her inspiration and to find growth in order to support us effectively. And what that can mean is that her guiding force, she very much guides social relationships, social interactions, harmony of every possible description. That influence disappears because she's on retreat, and she said the ball's in your court a little bit. So it's almost like the sort of divine guidance that we expect and like in that area disappears a little bit. And so we have to put our grown-up pants on at that point and say, okay, how can I be more mature in my thinking, more compassionate in my outlook, more supportive of harmony? And how can I be patient when those things don't happen because Frigg's on retreat? Okay, so she's on retreat. I haven't actually put a symbol there, so I'm just going to pop her symbol down at the bottom so that we can see her, what's happening with her. Now we've got one other planet moving into retreat. Typically, Odin goes into retreat 3 times pretty much a year, and he's going to go into retreat on the 10th. So we'll pop him in on the 10th. There we go. And that's Odin going on retreat there. Now, if Frigg governs social relationships, Odin governs what I think about as our creative and destructive aspect, our ability to create, our ability to destroy, to have ideas, to bring them to fruition. It's often why I think technology goes a little bit wrong when Odin's on retreat, because he governs that sort of sense of communication and the realm of ideas and ideas birthing into the world. So when he's not there, again, we have to compensate for that a little bit and sometimes be a bit patient, recognizing that things might just be a little bit more challenging. Now, the other thing that's going to happen is that Odin is going to move from Berkano into Teiwaz, and he's going to do that on the what have I done? Oh, that's what I've done, something silly. See, this is why it's quite nice to do this as a meditation, but obviously I'm talking to you. So he is going to move into Teiwaz on the 10th. This is the rune of partnership, possibility. You know, you might get some new collaborations coming through on the 10th there. All lovely, beautiful. But then he's going to go on retreat, apologies, on the 16th. Here we are. Moving into retreat on the 16th. And that means that he will be going backwards, obviously. And so those partnerships, it's just being a little bit wary of setting up partnerships and relying on them too heavily, because when he goes into retreat, he then goes back into Berkano. And he goes back into Berkano on the 20th. So about here, he goes, I'm bored of hanging out in Teiwaz, the rune of partnership and instinctive partnership in particular. If you're going to enter into partnerships with your Teiwaz rune, often they will be about things that feel really good. And you're like, oh, you know, I really want to work with this person. This feels great. We just synergize really, really well. It is worthwhile getting things down in writing, agreeing things, and then recognizing that you might need to go back to the drawing board a little bit as Odin goes on retreat. There might be something else that needs to birth through that, some new ideas that haven't quite come fully to fruition, things that haven't been agreed together, and Berkano gives you a little bit of an opportunity to do that there. So just be a little bit wary. He will come back out, obviously. He'll pop back out when he finishes his retreat, and then he'll go back into Teiwaz again. So that's just a cautionary note that's the case there. So we've looked at Odin, and we have looked at Frigg. Is it Frigg's got no more movements? No, Frigg has got no more movements. Just got one more movement. There we go. I'm going to pop her in now. So again, because Frigg's gone on retreat, she started out in Teiwaz, but she's also going to go back into Berkano. And this is why we end up with a very, very strong Berkano energy towards the end of the month, because the sun is also going to move into Berkano. Odin's gone back into Berkano. Frigg goes back into Berkano. We already have Aegir in Berkano. So just as we've had this really strong Teiwaz moment, we're then going to have a really strong Berkano moment. So that's on the 14th. Yep, that she's going to move. So around the time of the full moon, she's going to move as well. So let's pop her in. You can see that I'm enjoying all of my different colours. Works nicely when you do it. Right. Here we go. So we're getting this dominant Berkano energy. There is also one more planet, and this is an important planetary movement. And this is going to be on the 18th. So on the 18th, another planet's going to move into Berkano, and that is Loki's chariot. Now, Loki governs constraint and freedom. It's that dynamic between constraint and freedom, that sense of what is it I need in order to be truly free? What discipline might I need in order to be truly free? What am I going to sacrifice in order to be truly free? He asks all of those questions. And he's moving into Berkano, which is often seen as being a rune of the divine feminine, but it's very, very associated with Loki. So it's actually a very powerful planetary movement for Loki to move into Berkano. So that's something that we'll be looking at in Suna's Star Wheel. We'll be looking at it through my Birth Rune's Soul Journey people, and really feeling into how does this Loki's chariot in Berkano, and he'll be there for quite some time, it amplifies all of these other Berkano energies. There's a huge number of planets hanging out in Berkano at this point, in time. Okay, and then the final movement that we have also into Berkano will be Odin. Have I popped Odin in already? Yes, I've already got him in there, haven't I? Yeah, so he's moving on the 20th in. And then the Suna's chariot, as I mentioned, she is going to move into Berkano. And she's going to move on the 13th, so just ahead of the full moon here. So you remember that I said it's going to be quite quiet in that first week. It's going to be quite quiet in our lovely first week. So we're going to be able to get some good momentum going if you're able to. And then it will start to, things will start to move and shift in all sorts of unexpected ways with this Berkano energy that you can see building and building. So we already had Aegir's chariot in Berkano. We already had the sun moving into Berkano. Odin was in Berkano, then he moved into Teiwaz, but he'll come back into Berkano. So all of these things are bringing about this real influx of the energy of the divine feminine and our relationship with the feminine, our relationship with, you could think about it as the goddess, but you could also think about it as the divine feminine within each of us and what that means. And I'm quite looking forward to it, I have to admit. I think sort of in the world right now, we might need a little bit of healing feminine energy to support us. So we'll pop that in with the sun moving into Kano at the very end here. And you'll see that Suna, she moves into planets. She moves into the runes, and then she moves into the zodiac sign. So each zodiac sign has got like 3 runes, 2 or 3 runes that can sit within it, that cross between them. So if you're born under Aries, which is Thor's chariot, you might have your birth rune as Berkano, or you might have it as Teiwaz. Apologies, I'm getting confused. I'm confusing you there. I'm just going to rub that one out. So that's Teiwaz at the end. So this signifies at the very end of the month, if I can get it in, just the slow calming down of that Berkano energy and moving into the rune of partnership, which, as I said, Odin had already started, but he was just a little bit of ahead of himself. He was like, oh no, I need to revisit. I need to go back, and there's something I haven't done yet. So just be a little bit wary of partnerships offered through the course of this lunar cycle. You might want to wait until the 28th, until the next new moon, to really get going with any new partnerships. Allow that nurturing, initiating energy of the Berkano rune to come through. Remember that Odin and Frigg are both going on retreat through the course of this cycle. And take that opportunity to really seize the day with that Teiwaz energy, with a strong Teiwaz energy at the beginning of the month. So I hope that you've enjoyed this experiment, my first time experimenting with laying out your lunar cycle as I have done. Let me know what you think. Who knows, maybe I'll be able to start making this all a little bit neater if I was to do it without a tablet and do it on with my lovely pencil and pen, which I do prefer to use. But I hope that you've enjoyed my squiggles, sharing with you what is happening for the February 2025 new moon. Enjoy.